Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hoops Crush podcast. Today is episode 26. We got quite a bit I want to get into today, but as always, we're going to check in on Eric. Eric, how are you doing, man?
I'm good, Brady. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing good as well. We had NBA Finals Game 1. The Blazers finally held a private workout. Maybe they've held another one, apparently. I don't know if you saw something about that, so we'll get into that. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Lakers thing because I found that very interesting. So those are three things I truly wanted to talk about today. So is there anywhere you wanted to start? Is there anything you need to say up top? Like I'm down to start wherever for this one.
No, just I'll start wherever you want to start, Brady.
All right, so let's get the NBA Finals Game 1 out of the way because it wasn't that great of a watch. Obviously, the Celtics blow them out pretty much in the first half, led by 29. And then I was like, at one point, I was watching the game, but I'm like, how is this an 8-point lead all of a sudden? It just felt so
Yeah.
weird. And then Boston went on another run, and that was pretty much all she wrote. And then Dallas, conceived with it was like maybe not 8 minutes, it was like 5 or 6 minutes left in the game. And then Joe Mazzulla is worried about like subbing people out individually, his starters out individually for like standing ovation, which I found kind of weird. But I feel like Boston does that quite often because I feel like in the regular season they do weird stuff like that too, where they'll have like Tatum in late games when it's a blowout. I'm like, what are we doing, man? Just take everybody out. It takes Jaylen Brown out one at a time. Very weird, but I mean, obviously not that big of a deal, unless if someone, of course, got like Derrick Rose or something back then. I know that probably hurt some people because Derrick Rose is a very sensitive topic for some people. But what were your thoughts on Game 1?
Disappointing. I think just was hoping that it would be a close game. There's been some good games throughout these playoffs, but there's also been a fair amount of blowouts. So I was really hoping to have a close game and see how everyone reacted in that. Like you mentioned, the cutting it to 8 points, Luka started getting going, and you thought, oh, okay, maybe this is going to become a game, and it wasn't meant to be. So yeah, just kind of a letdown that it was a blowout, but it's just one game in this series, so hopefully that's not how the whole series goes in terms of blowouts for either team. I just want to see some good, exciting games.
I think that's what we all want to see. Like, I know some people might care about who wins. Truly, I don't mind if Boston wins. I don't mind if Dallas wins. Like, it wouldn't hurt my feelings either way. I just want a long competitive series. We didn't get that in the conference finals, so I think as NBA fans, this has been a great season, and I just would want to, wanted to end it the best it can possibly end. So hopefully we get a much better game 2 on Sunday back in Boston again. If Boston takes a 2-0 lead, I'm worried about Dallas because, I mean, if Boston gets one of those in Dallas, then the series might be all but over. So,
Yeah.
we'll see, man. Hopefully, Dallas can get, maybe get one on the road. That'd be kind of fun because then I think Boston could easily get one at Dallas, and we go back to Game 5. Even that'd be awesome. That'd be the best way I think we can come out of this. So hopefully we do get that. But I wish we had more to talk about for Game 1. It just wasn't a good game.
I have a question for you. Do you
Yeah.
buy the theory that Boston has figured out Kyrie Irving and knows how to stop him?
No, I don't. Not after one game. I won't say that after one game. So,
Yeah. He's definitely
hopefully,
got to step up.
yeah, for sure. And he's had some weird, like, he's in these playoffs, like, some games he'll, like, be just electric, and then other games he'll just be kind of, like, you don't notice it as much because the older role players are stepping up, but, like, he isn't doing a whole lot as far as the scoring bird is concerned. But, no, he's had those games where he pops off, but then he's had games where he's only had, like, 13, and it just goes unnoticed because they've won the game or whatever. So, yeah, he has to be a lot better, especially in this series. And then Lively gets 5 fouls, and and Porzingis. I guess we gotta say that Porzingis in Game 1. We can't go without saying how good Porzingis was off the bench for that team. I do wonder if they keep him off the bench throughout this series, or if they ever bring him back in the starting lineup. But yeah, he was incredible in Game 1. He couldn't miss a shot. It felt like so.
I don't think anyone predicted him coming in and being the difference in that game.
Yeah, he pretty much was.
Obviously, him being healthy was vastly important and crucial to Boston, but I mean, he just came in and all of a sudden the lead went from a couple points to like astronomical. So, yeah, he played great. I don't know though, like some of the shots he took, obviously the dunks are easy, but some of those threes he took were like quick release. Like it felt like he was just like hucking the ball up in the air and it was going in.
Yeah.
It was one of those feelings like when you're in the zone. I don't know if that's like sustainable though for the entire series because a lot of those shots, he has a tendency to shoot them kind of flat sometimes, and they hit off the rim pretty hard. So it'll be interesting to see if he can continue that moving forward. Or and Dallas only made 7 threes, I think, the entire game, 7 of 26 or something like that. Just abysmal shooting. So you wouldn't think that would continue either. So yeah, hopefully it's just a little bit more evened out next game.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is your NBA Finals talk. Like I said, wish the game was better, but not really much to talk about. Game 2.
We'll have like 3 more games to talk about next week, right?
And hopefully the series ain't like over or close to over. We got like a even series at that point. But all right, so let's start with Dalton Knecht works out for the Blazers. First private workout that's public because apparently Donovan Clingan worked out for us already, which is kind of weird that it's secretive. But like, because usually every time, last year, every time I had a private workout, they posted it everywhere. But now all of a sudden, Clingan worked out for us, but no one knew about it until now. Even none of the Blazers media felt like they knew about it, which was kind of weird. So not really sure what to think of that. I'm sure you might have come up with a theory, but I was listening to you and Tori's debate on Dalton Knecht, and I thought it was a really good one because, he is a player that I feel like would fit a lot better on a win now team. But I don't hate the idea of the Blazers drafting him necessarily, but it does have to be in the right role because there were some things I agreed with on you with agreed with Tori, and there were some things I agreed with you. Like I 100% agree with you when you say that you'd rather, I forget exactly how you say it, but like you'd rather have a player be able to play, was it down or up? Whatever you were saying, I was agreeing with you. Because I'd rather have a player that's like really tall playing point guard or whatever. So like that's kind of what I would want too. So I think Dalton Knecht would only, like, I wouldn't love him as our small forward long term. I think, if Shaedon Sharpe isn't going to work out at that 2, which is where I'd rather play him long term and not the 3, I think the biggest thing Knecht could do for us would be a bench shooting guard, which I wouldn't hate because, like Tori was saying, he could be a microwave scorer off the bench, and if he definitely has that ceiling coming in right away, I think. So I kind of don't mind it, but it definitely has to be under the right circumstances. But I do believe a team like OKC or Memphis would probably have a lot better, he'd probably be a lot better there right away than maybe with us.
Yeah, and my other thing was that defense. I'm not as high on his defense as Tori was. And so I think he's fine within a system of a defense. But the Blazers now, since they drafted Dame in 2012, have had to have wings. They're 2-3. They've needed desperately to be good defenders and not just okay in a scheme type defenders. And I feel like when you're already starting with the baseline that the Blazers are starting with 3 below average defenders, now it could change if any of those 3 between Scoot, Simons, or Sharpe either get traded or one of them or all of them or whatever 2 of the 3 become good defenders or at least respectable defenders. Maybe that changes the equation a little bit. But for me, ever since like Dame and CJ, all that kind of stuff, we lost Wes and Batum. We've needed a small forward that can cover for those mistakes, guard the other team's best defender or best offensive player. Our point of attack defense on like pick and rolls and on the perimeter has been absolute trash for years. And it's one of the main reasons why the Blazers have been near the bottom of the defensive rating standings for a while now. And so for me, even though they did show a slight improvement on the defensive end last year, it still comes back to if you just add more and more offensive firepower without addressing the defense, I think each time you do that, it makes it incrementally harder to build a good defense. And so I do like Connect. I think he would fit in well offensively. I just worry the more we lean into the offensive side of the ball again and continue to ignore the defensive needs, and specifically the perimeter defense and point of attack defense. I don't know how sustainable that is to keep doing it. But at the same time, I mean, if he's a really good offensive player and you pick him and he's like a first team all rookie or whatever, like you can't say that's necessarily a bad pick, even with the lack of addressing the needs.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of want to hear from the people in the comment section below because, like I said, I think there is a lot to have been said about Dalton Knecht. Like, would it make sense to draft him at 7? And like I said, YouTube debating was a lot of fun. Listening to you guys go back and forth, and given, and like I said, I agreed with a lot of both what you guys were saying. So, like, I wonder how Blazers fans would feel if we did draft him at 7. Maybe he's at 14, but obviously probably highly doubtful. So, if you're getting Connect, and again, it's only the first guy we've worked out, so we think, and I'll continue to say that. But so I would love to hear from you guys. Like, what do you think about Dalton Connect at 7? Do you do you agree with a lot of Eric is saying about the defense, or do you think long term it would be fine? And would you rather have Connect playing? I feel like the main thing I also say is, like, is Anthony's going to still be here long term? I'm not sure. I also love the Connect pick. Like, I feel like Connect makes a lot more sense if Anthony is gone. Not that, because, like, then you're talking about bringing one of Scoot or Sharp off the bench, and it's going to be weird what we do. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. It's going to be weird because obviously you might have to start all 3 going to next season if you don't want any of them to come off the bench. So it's just weird. And if we bring in another guard, which I know Connect could play some 3, but like you said, I'd rather him play shooting guard long term than more than be our starting small forward, because then limiting our defensive upside, because that's been a problem for years when we had the backcourt Dame and CJ, as you mentioned. So yeah, it's an interesting player, and I would not be mad if we drafted him at 7. It just has to be under the right circumstances. Then we also got to swing for a bigger wing, I think, at 14 if we're taking Connect at 7. But I don't hate it if we do.
Yeah, I don't think it's the end of the world. It's not like if we take Edie or something at 7 and I'm like, what the heck? But yeah, and I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could argue he's a small forward, I guess, but yeah, I don't know. It's not like if we take Reed Shepard or Rob Dillingham or something, then it's like, what in the heck are we doing, right? So yeah, you can kind of justify it, I guess. So just real quick, that the debate was whether it's better to have a player that can play up a position, like a shooting guard that has the size to play small forward, or like a center that can play power forward, or a small forward that can play point guard. And I like the mismatches it creates when you have a lot of length at a bunch of different positions. I don't think it's like crucial or necessary, but I just like starting with that as your team, where you're kind of like bigger, you have advantages at a lot of different positions versus, oh man, how is Connect gonna guard like Kevin Durant or something, like. And so I do think having like a forward that can play a little bit of small ball center and stuff is good. I'm not saying to completely write that off or anything. I just value more guys that are like forward size that have guard skill sets, or forwards that can pass and maybe play bigger than they are. I don't know. That's just, I had a real fun time debating that with Tori.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think where the NBA is going, you need a lot more size. So, especially with these point guards coming in at like 6'8" nowadays, like, you need more size. And again, there is still the 6'3" guys, don't get me wrong, but size is exactly where the NBA is going. So I 100% was in agreement with you on that, where I'd rather have the biggest, that way Sharp's playing the 2, And if Knecht was drafted here, I'd rather him still be playing shooting guard, not necessarily small forward. Not saying like he can't play small forward at times. Same thing with Sharp, but I'd rather their main position be those where we get like a 6'9", 6'10" small forward rather than playing a 6'5", 6'6" small forward. And I know size isn't everything, but it definitely is important for sure. Because I know you could be small and play a lot bigger, like guys like Josh Hart, Bruce Brown, but it's still important. And I think I would rather have a bigger team than running those small ball or running those like 3 guard lineups like we used to back in the day with Norman Powell, Dame CJ, or whether it was Rodney Hood. It's just, yeah, I would love to see this team be big for once, and it feels like we haven't seen that in a while. So
Yeah.
I'm completely in agreement with you on that.
See, I think as long as you have the 3 guards, you have, like I said, it changes if you move one of them. But as long as you have those 3, I mean, you pretty much have all the minutes locked up at guard, and then you have roughly 12 to 16 or so minutes at small forward, into game situations, or if you want to start all 3. So maybe you start all 3 and then take one out after a few minutes or something. But I don't really care who starts, I guess. But you really only have to cover a small amount of time for one of them to play small forward. And I think you can get away with that. But then if you add another person into the equation, then Knecht would probably have to get like the other remaining 48 minutes minus the 12 to 16 you're playing Sharp at the 3. And so he's playing like 30 minutes or so, 32 minutes at the 3, and that he doesn't have any time for the guard, like any guard play. So he's strictly like a small forward then, unless someone's hurt. But if you're all healthy, I mean, you can get away with that. There's minutes there for everyone, but that's basically all you have the entire season. If they're all healthy, is those 4. And you're never going to be like necessarily big at any of those positions.
100% agree. Diamond Klingon, though. So, or go ahead, unless you had something to say.
The other thing about that is, so there's a rumor today that Ron Holland could fall out of the lottery.
Yeah, saw that.
And, there's been, I mean, who knows? They're just mock drafts, so this could be the case or it could not be. But there's been plenty that have Cody Williams kind of teetering back towards that 14th pick as well. And so if the Blazers are sitting there having already taken Knecht, and like I just mentioned, have already kind of just cemented their whole point guard, shooting guard, small forward minute rotation for as long as those 4 players are on the team. But one of those guys falls. Topic now could fall due to poor wingspan, and he's got a partially torn ACL. So who knows if that'll affect his draft stock or whatever. But you're potentially sitting there with an opportunity to get a player that would play that same position at 14 that might be just as good as Knecht. Maybe not the same kind of skill set, but maybe a better defensive player like Cody Williams or Ron Holland would be. And if their offensive games come around, then you could potentially have a better all-around player than Knecht would be. So then you're kind of like, okay, so now do we draft the best player available, or do we just ignore that and go for need at 14? So it also brings into play, I think, if you kind of cement that rotation at 7, it kind of messes with what you should probably do at 14. And I'm not saying you shouldn't take Knecht if you feel like he's the best player on the board, because that's how I think they should do every pick this year. Just take whatever the best player is. But it's still it's just weird in the Blazers position for years. Like, it's like, no, don't draft a guard, don't draft a guard. And now we're going to draft potentially another shooting guard / small forward or something. I don't know, man. It just like a weird position to be in.
He is a good damn guard, though. His shooting would be really important on this team.
Sure.
He is 23 though, so that's interesting as well. You know, we got Kamara, who I believe is older too. Obviously Scoot and Sharp were drafted.
Chris Murray is 23 as well.
Yeah, so like we'd
We
start
like our 23-year-olds last year.
starting to build these 4-year, or not necessarily 4-year college. What did Connect? I don't know if Connect was in college for 4 years, but these older college guys rather than 19-year-olds.
And Scoot's not your average 19-year-old. So.
Oh yeah, that
He's like
too.
a 4 years.
Yeah, forgot about that part. So, but shifting over to Donovan Clingan once again, and Eric, this will probably be funny to. I don't know if you saw me say this in the group chat today, but it'll probably be funny for you to hear me say this. But I actually sat down and watched more Clingan stuff, right? And my memory of watching him is not the same as what it is now. I did not realize how clunky he looks, and he's not as what I thought he was. That's what I'll say. He's a lot bigger than I thought. I don't know why. Like I only watched I watched 2 UConn games. And,
let's preface this by saying like you've always said you don't really scout or watch a lot of college basketball.
Yeah, I'm not a big scout guy. So like, I was like, I don't necessarily regret, taking Clingan in the mock off season or anything like that. I do regret trading up. Like, I didn't think I needed to do that. Like, for whatever reason, I thought Clingan was I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but he's definitely not as, I don't know what the right terminology is, what I'm trying to say, but he's definitely a little bit different than I thought, basically. With that being said, though, so yeah, I'm definitely more pissed if we trade up to get him at 3, because that is not the type of guy you trade up to get at 3. Or trade up to 3 or whatever. So Houston could take him if they want him. I personally don't see it as well. So I'm a little bit of an agreement with you guys on that now. So I've shifted a little bit. But apparently, Jonathan Gavoni said that we already held a private workout for him, which is something the Blazers have not done under this front office, or at least we don't think anyway.
They did. They had a second secret workout with Sharp.
Oh, okay. So maybe this is something they do. I wasn't sure about that.
It's kind of, but that was they got a second look at him. They did have a public one.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was supposed to say we had a private workout with him.
Yeah.
I don't know, it seemed kind of weird, but it was written in an article, right? So it wasn't like he slipped or misspoke or something. He actually typed it out. So, but that's definitely, I mean, he's obviously known that. So that obviously is where this smoke is coming from, that we're interested in moving up to get him. But yeah, that doesn't make me feel super confident that we kept that secret. I don't know.
Yeah, so like, why do you think they wanted to keep it secret? Like, is it because they don't want anybody to really know their interest, or are they trying to cause smoke and convince people they're really interested? Like, how do you interpret this? Because I'm not really sure how to interpret it, because I did not expect to see this today where I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, it's one of two things. They were trying to hide their love for him, and it's starting to trickle out now.
Yeah.
Intentionally or not. But if it comes out we had a workout with him and he's projected to go 3, and Houston's sitting there at 3 saying, hey, you have to give us more if you want to come up and get him, So I think that's why it was private. But I don't know why you would tell Gavoni about it. I mean, it could have been Clayton's agent or someone like that. But it just seems kind of weird that it would leak if you're trying to keep it a secret, that you're trying to move up and trying not to get out leveraged. Like Cronin always seems to have the excuse of leverage against him. It just seems kind of weird that would get out there, or that you'd have the workout far enough in advance of the draft to where there's too much time to not find out about it. So that would be the first thing for me, is just simply they are really interested in Donovan Clingan. They want to move up to get him, or hoping he drops to 7, and are going to continue to try and make that happen. The other option in my mind is this is a continuation of the greatest smokescreen of all time, and I don't believe that's something this front office is capable of. But
Yeah.
I mean, it would be very simple to leak that you are having a private workout with Donovan Clingan, and whether it's true or not, just to get teams behind you once again to be scared that you're going to move up and get their guy, and then they go up and get him. So, I, I mean, it doesn't really make sense either way, like we talked about last episode. But yeah, I don't know. It really feels like they just really like Klingon.
Yeah, it's so weird. And like if we are interested in him, right? And are we just never going to if it's not true we didn't work him out, right? If that's not true, then are we just not going to ever work him out? Like are we never going to, is he not going to come for a workout? Be kind of weird. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know,
if he's
man.
getting buzz, I mean, because so last year, Scoot, I mean, it's a little different situation because Scoot was like for sure going top 3 last year.
Mhm.
But he only worked out for, I don't even know if he worked out for San Antonio, did he?
No, I don't think
I
he
think it
did.
was
I think
just Portland and
Charlotte.
Charlotte, and
Didn't he
then
work out for New
and
Orleans
then
too?
yeah, then he has one random workout with
Yeah.
New Orleans because they had convinced him that they were gonna try and trade up to 3 or whatever. And so if all these rumors about Donovan Clingan, not necessarily just from the Blazers, but I mean Gavoni's been on uh, him being a top 3 pick since like slightly before the NCAA tournament, I think, and then they win again, and so he had that good run, which kind of solidified that opinion of Gavoni's, and then now there's some talk out there that Atlanta is considering possibly taking him at 1, um, which man,
That'd be wild.
so like I think there's enough there for if you're Klingon and his agent to be like, well, why would I go work out for Portland at 7 when I'm going to be a top 5 pick or top 3
That's
pick or
true.
whatever?
That's very
So I
true.
think he would work out for those other teams first. So the only thing I can think of is once again, this is all true that Portland's trying to move up to get him. And they told him, hey, we are at 7 right now. Obviously, if you fell to 7, we take you. So that's going to be like the floor of the worst draft pick you'd be is 7th. But we're going to try to move up. Can we please get a workout with you, a private workout, just to show you how interested we are in moving up and getting you, how much we appreciate your game and all that kind of stuff. So that's the only thing I can think of is that they convinced him, just like New Orleans did with Scoot last year, that it's a viable possibility that they're going to move up to get him. And yeah, I don't know. It's so weird. I mean, like out of all the prospects in this draft, it seems like they're like locked in on this one player. It just seems kind of odd to me.
As far as what everything's been saying, yeah, it's been basically all Donovan Clingan talks. I know we're gonna be working out like a bunch of guys next week, like Ron Holland, Zach Edey. There's Keyshawn George, I think, and some other names. So that's exciting. I'm curious to see how many other private workouts that they do as well.
And that was like one big workout.
Yeah,
There's like a bunch of good players coming on the same day. That'll be
yeah, it'll be
fun to
fun.
watch the video from that.
Exactly. So, yeah, I know we kind of talked about this last week, but yeah, I really hope we aren't really that interested in trading up for Klingon like this. Like I said, man, if you get him at 7, whatever, like
Right.
he doesn't to me like after watching, he doesn't. I'm not really sure he ever becomes like a starting center in this league, but maybe bench for sure. And I don't know. We'll see. It's just weird. I don't know, man. I don't know with him. It's gonna be weird. And this draft, of course, is weak as they say, all things considered. So maybe you're not getting a star in this draft regardless, and maybe it's all just about getting a guy that sticks as a role player. but just stay at 7 and 14. Take the 2 swings. So that's what I'm hoping for. And
Yeah.
the Sonic Klingon stuff is weird. So that's all I gotta say. It's weird. So maybe we can start hearing about another prospect here soon that we're super interested in. But right now it's all been Klingon. So we'll see what happens.
And just to reiterate a point from last week, it's outside of Alex Sarr, in my opinion, this particular draft, there are numerous players that are so closely ranked. I wouldn't want to put our 2 picks into one of them for pretty much anyone else. So I would want to take 2 swings at 7 and 14 versus taking both of those picks and moving up to 3 or whatever we decide to do, whatever assets we give up to go up to get them. So if you end up trading both picks just to get 1 pick, unless that guy is Alex Sarr, I think it's a mistake to put all that into 1 player versus having those 2 opportunities to hit. And we've seen numerous drafts, even in weak drafts, where there's players. The 2013 draft with Giannis and Rudy Gobert and stuff, CJ goes 10th. At the top part of that draft was very weak. And so, like, if you would have traded up in that draft, you're probably outside of like Victor Oladipo, maybe like you're looking at a bunch of guys that didn't really pan out. And so I would much rather just stay put and take a couple swings than take 1 swing in this draft.
And it's right around the corner, man. June 27th, right? Is the date?
It's the 26th for the first round.
Oh, first round is on a Wednesday? Interesting.
Yeah, it's Wednesday this year. And the second round is at 1.
I heard you guys complaining, or I heard you complaining about that on Thursday.
It's a little better for you. It's
Yeah.
what, 3 o'clock or something? But
Yeah,
it's still so
like
early, man.
Yeah, it is pretty early. And it's very weird that I think, like I said, I think the whole 2-day thing is weird anyway for this, like when there's only 60 picks. But as I told you, I think it could have been executed well if they did the lottery on the first night and stretched that out as long as possible, because people care about that. And then you still have people, but don't do it at the time you're doing it, and then you have the rest of the first round and the second round, the rest of the picks. So like, I think that would have been a better way to do it. But they're doing it this way. We'll see how it goes. I don't know, man. It's weird.
Man, the NBA is upsetting me this year.
Yeah,
they moved the draft lottery from Tuesday, like it always is, to a Sunday, and then they choose Mother's Day of all Sundays to have it.
Yeah.
And as YouTubers, like it's tough to like justify that and all that kind of stuff. Like we have to stream that event,
Yeah.
and that's one of the big moments for both of our channels, to have that live experience, get to interact with our audience, all enjoy the excitement together or the pain together. And so to put that on Mother's Day it was kind of frustrating.
Very weird.
But whatever. They split the day and draft into 2 nights. It's kind of annoying, but once again, whatever. But then to put the second day at 1 p.m. on a Thursday, like, come on, NBA. At least do it like Friday and Saturday or something. Saturday, Sunday, if you're going to do that, to where like you can, like more people are around to watch it. Because like I know a lot of people won't care about the second round, but as long as I can remember, the 1992 NBA draft was actually in Portland.
Yeah.
And that was Shaquille O'Neal, Alonzo Mourning, Christian Laettner, LaFonso Ellis. There was like a lot of good players in that draft, and I was like, well, I wasn't. It was like right around my birthday or on my birthday or something, and so I was right around 13 years old at the time. And I remember tickets being $5 to go to the draft, and I like wanted to go so bad, but it was before my mom was like really into the Blazers or anything, and I couldn't like no one wanted to go. Like the draft's so boring,
Yeah.
like why would you want to go watch people get picked? So that could have been at the '92 draft when Shaq got
That would have
drafted and
been
all that. That
awesome.
would have been cool.
Yeah.
But didn't end up going to that. And then, but I remember vividly ever since then, like wanting to watch every draft. Same with the NFL. I like the NFL draft
Yeah,
too.
NFL draft's a lot of fun.
And
Especially
I
when your team
watched,
sucks every year
yeah.
and you get to watch your team pick high.
I admittedly, though, see, this happened with the NFL too, because they used to be 2 days, and the first 3 rounds I think were day one, and then 4 through 7 were day two. And I would religiously like take the day off, get together with all my friends. We'd like go golfing in the morning, and then spend the rest of the day just hours and hours watching football or the draft coverage, and then we'd play like finish the night with like a poker game or something. And like I love that kind of stuff. And now just it's on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I still watch like I'll DVR like the 4 through 7 rounds and kind of have it on in the background, that kind of stuff. But it's just I don't know, it kind of lost some of its luster outside of the first round. I hoping that doesn't happen with the NBA. But putting it at 1 p.m. on a weekday probably does not help garner a ton of extra interest in their product.
Yeah, it's very weird. Unless you have anything else to say, this is a good transition because is it because of Brawny that they moved it to 2 days or whatever? So
I don't believe so because it was rumored to be heading that way before
yeah,
Bronny
nah,
had
no,
even been
I was just
cleared to
kidding.
medically be played. But yeah, it's fun to like have those stupid theories. No,
Yeah.
you know what? So next year it's just gonna go back to. They're gonna say, "Oh, this didn't work out. We're gonna put it back to one
They
day."
should. I mean, I honestly think they should either change it to my idea or just go back to 1 day because I think 2 days like this is gonna be a failure, to be honest, especially at these
What?
times.
And when Bronny goes 17, then they won't have his second round
Yeah, they're like,
to
what do
talk
we do
about.
now?
Now they just have to talk about him being drafted by the Lakers the whole second round.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Lakers, like I said, I really wanted to talk about this because I found this whole thing fascinating. This Dan Hurley thing is so interesting because Shams told everybody that JJ Redick was the favorite, and Shams is represented by Clutch, and he's close to Rich Paul, and it just feels so weird to me how Woj had this scoop and not Shams. So it makes me feel like the Lakers aren't really caring as much about what I know they're saying LeBron has no input on what's going on with JJ Redick and all that, but not really sure anybody buys that. And also the trading for a third star thing, but now the terminology for hiring Dan Hurley is developing the guys they have, like Rui, Austin Reeves, and then taking Bronny with 55, and so like it's all very weird to me. So I'm not saying this is heading towards a divorce. I think LeBron, I would be weird if LeBron got mad about hiring Dan Hurley. I think that'd be weird, but it definitely feels strange that Shams didn't have that scoop and Woj did, to me, in my opinion. I don't know. Do you think that's a little weird?
Yeah. So gotta preface this once again. Um, I am all for gambling. I think it's brought like some fun stuff to things. I think that is one of the reasons why the NFL got so popular because fantasy football is such an easy game to play. And it's one game a week. You don't have to set your lineup every day like basketball and baseball and all that kind of stuff. And also, uh, I feel like stuff like the Jonte Porter thing doesn't happen unless these sports books are like flagging unusual bets and things like that. Whereas before, it would have all been done behind the scenes, and you might not have ever known that Jonte Porter is running up millions of dollars to some bookie that knowing, some mobster or something, But like now, I think all these places are very cautious about checking on irregularities and betting. There was like I think it was Alabama baseball or something like that a couple years ago that they like someone was just betting unusual amounts of money, like high amounts of money on random college baseball games, and it didn't really make a lot of sense. And they discovered there was something there with the coach gambling. And so I think a lot of these things are like you can say I understand that people think gambling can be negative and bad for certain situations, certain people, and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's kind of set up to be on the up and up as long as all these companies are keeping up on that. Um, but that being said, someone like Shams, who is sponsored and paid by FanDuel, I think, right? Is it
Yeah.
FanDuel?
Yeah, FanDuel Sportsbook.
He's paid by them to, you know, go on shows on their, or whatever that network is, or whatever platform they have those shows on. And just by tweeting or saying something can influence thousands and thousands of dollars to be swung one way or another. And now we have, going back to the Scoot's going to go number 2, or the Charlotte's targeting Scoot at the second pick after, everyone thought it was going to be Brandon Miller for a while. And then everyone's like, oh no, they're going to take Scoot. Blazers won't be able to trade as well at the third pick. So that, and then this JJ Redick thing, I mean, it didn't seem at the time like it was going, like that was a weird thing to say or anything. It was like that's what it's felt like this whole time, is that JJ Redick was going to get that job. So I don't know if something like Dan Hurley just changed his mind about possibly leaving UConn, or something happened between then. It'd be interesting if JJ doesn't get the job, if he eventually says something about it. But it is kind of weird to me that Shams could be paid by a sports book and then influence the amount of bets that come in. It's like, hey, Shams, tweet this out so we get, because we're going to lose a lot of money if JJ Redick's not the coach. So let's get a bunch of people to bet on him if he's not going to be the coach. That kind of seems shady if a sports book's doing that.
Yeah.
And I hope they get caught if that's the case.
Yeah. So that's what you think is going on. You think he tweeted that because of FanDuel?
I don't know. I mean, I could very easily see FanDuel being like, hey, we'll bump your salary up if you just tweet out, so we get a little bit of action. Even maybe they stood to lose a ton of money if a certain player or a certain person, because there's odds on who the next Lakers coach is on all these sites. So or like who's going to go second in the draft, or will Scoot be drafted over under the 2.5 for the pick. So if he's drafted 2, you win. If he's drafted beyond 2, you lose. So it would be very easy to influence the public on that, and those things did influence it. So yeah, and then the year before that, we had that weird thing where it was like Jabari Smith was like, both him and Woj for a long time said Jabari Smith was pretty much locked in to be number 1. And then all of a sudden, like a day before, or like the day of, all of a sudden Woj was like, nope, they're locked in on Banchero. And so I don't know. That part of it seems a lot more shady than this world where everyone's point shaving and rigging games and all that kind of stuff.
That is an angle I did not see coming, to be honest with you. But it does make somewhat sense. That definitely could be the case. I was more thinking that the Lakers don't care what LeBron thinks.
Oh, well, I mean, if they're giving Dan Hurley this massive contract, like they're basically saying we're wanting you for post LeBron era.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You can be around for the end of LeBron, but I mean, what, LeBron's going to play 2 more years, maybe 3 at the absolute most, you'd think. So if he signs like a 5-year, $100 million contract, like they're rumored to be asking for from the Lakers, yeah, you're not eating that money most likely. So, and that's at least 2 years, if not more, without LeBron. But I don't know. LeBron did have that tweet talking about how
Yeah, Dan Hurley.
Dan Hurley was like the best X's and O's coach in the game or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but just the way it's just like, because obviously LeBron's one of those guys that's always third star, and maybe he will change his mind because of this new CBA and he'll see that, but I'm not really sure I see that coming from him. So like with Woj, like just kept saying, oh, they're worried about developing, making sure Rui, Reeves all take a massive jump, but if you're trading for like Trae Young or DeJounte Murray, you're assuming one of those two guys are involved, and I know things change all the time, so maybe it doesn't matter that Woj is saying that. And then they also felt like they made sure to say, but they still are very interested in drafting Bronny at 55. But does Bronny last to 55 is my question, because I'm not sure he'd even last to 55, because if you're in the second round and you're getting to like 40s, and it's not hard to acquire a second round pick if there's a team that thinks they have a win now situation that LeBron might be okay with coming to. Like maybe, I don't know exactly how many picks Philadelphia has, but like maybe they take Bronny. Or it was funny because I recorded this last night and it all went down. It was funny because I didn't plan this out or anything. It just happened by the 2K simulation. And Bronny got drafted to Cleveland, which was hilarious. I'm like, wow. So, imagine that actually happened. That would break the NBA. I feel like Twitter would be freaking out about LeBron going back to Cleveland, because if that were to occur, which actually let it happen, I was like, you know what? They took him. They can have Bron too. I think that's like for the vibes. I was like, sure, why not? Let's make that happen. So, yeah, it's interesting because I was very confused how Shams had no scoop on Dan Hurley, and it was all Woj. And I think, Rob Pelinka and Woj are a lot closer, and obviously Shams is a lot closer to LeBron and Rich. So it was just weird how I felt like the Lakers feel like were worried about, which they should be, but LeBron isn't going to like that as much. But I'm not sure there's much he can do about it because they know he wants to stay in LA ultimately. It'll just be interesting to see how this all goes down. And I still believe LeBron will be with the Lakers come this season, but it would be interesting if somehow it didn't pan out that way. I'll say that.
Yeah, so I think right now they could trade, well, not right now, but during the draft, they could potentially trade the 17th pick, the rights to whoever are picked there, and then they could trade 2029 and 2031 first.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, it boils down to it being this simple. If they are trading for a star, most likely 17 is going to be involved, and they're going to have to find a way to either hope Bronny falls to 55 or whatever, or they're going to have to find a way to move up in the second round and get him. If they keep 17 or it's not part of a trade or whatever, and they are just developing the younger guys and all that, I think they have to take him there. I think they'll just take him there, and that's part of his development as a coach is Bronny there. Obviously can't say that right now, but that'll be part of what he's tasked to do, is get him NBA level ready, because we all know he's probably not on that level or expected to be anytime soon.
Man, yeah, you're right. It's going to be super fascinating to see what the Lakers do with 17, and if Dan Hurley does end up getting this job. It's going to be interesting, man. Like I said, this offseason is shaping up to be super interesting for so many angles, and I cannot wait.
I mean, if they trade 17 or don't take him at 17, you'd have to survive the Suns at 22 passing on him, which if he's like one of the only other teams he's working out for, you would have to think, if you're the Suns, and they're in a situation where they can only sign minimum contracts, they're kind of stuck on what they can do, limited option wise. Like, why not just shoot for
Yeah, they got
for
nothing to
getting
lose, right?
LeBron, right? So just, I mean, you might be wasting that pick, but is it really going to matter if you hit on that pick or get a role player or something at 22 versus the rest of that team, how that all works out? So I don't think it's that out of the realm of possibility that Bronny's gone at 22. And you just mentioned Cleveland. If I'm them, I'm absolutely tempting LeBron to come back for a third
Yeah.
time. I mean, he would be such a good fit on that roster
With
with,
Mitchell, Mobley.
yeah, assuming they didn't trade Garland. But I mean, even if they did, depends on what they got back for him. But that's really intriguing. You got, with Allen and Mobley, you got the defensive bigs that can cover for LeBron as he ages a little bit, allow him to take some possessions off on the defensive end like he has been for a few years now. So yeah, I'm doing that if those teams. At Philly, like you mentioned, I'm probably just, if I have a second round pick or get one, I'm probably just saying screw it, let's just take a chance. So I don't think there's any way he's lasting until 55, and it's one of the weirdest things to say, because if his name wasn't Bronny James, like, there's no way he's getting drafted in this draft. Like, there's just no way. I happen to be higher on him than a lot of people. I think he's got a lot of potential defensively to be a Pat Bev type pest defender. And I also think, despite some of his lack of skill on offense, he is a really smart player, has a high basketball IQ, and sees the floor really well, can play within an offense and all that kind of stuff. So I think he has some skills that could be useful in the NBA, but he measured short. He obviously had no production at USC this year. I mean, part of that was because he wasn't even cleared to play medically with his heart until middle of the season. So he kind of, and he's a freshman too. So like, it's not like every freshman comes in and kills it right away. But you can't make a case for any reason for him being a draft pick other than that he's LeBron's son this year. And that's one of the craziest stories in terms of nepotism that I've ever seen in sports.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild. Like I said, it's just so wild. So, as you were saying that, it made me think of an idea, and it's probably not gonna happen, but it would be funny. So, Cleveland drafts Bronny at 20. LeBron James decides to opt into his player option, and then he can get traded to the Cavs for Garland. But I feel like it'd be weird for the Cavs to trade Garland for a 40-year-old LeBron. So I don't know. I feel like you can get more for Garland than that. But yeah, it would be a funny.
And the Lakers probably want more than just Garland.
Yeah. So if I'm the Cavs, like, yeah, you're getting LeBron, but you're only getting him for 2 years, while Garland's ceiling could be much higher once he gets. But that'd be a home run for the Lakers if they're gonna lose LeBron. They're like, screw it, we'll take Garland back. That'd be a home run for them. But yeah, that was just funny to think about for a second. But
that's why I think they have to take him at 17, so they don't have any of these scenarios play out.
I know, but I feel like they also need an impact player at 17. So
or does LeBron just want his son to get drafted, so he doesn't care if it's the Lakers? He just wants.
Maybe
he's just using us all to get him drafted to a team, and especially if it's in the first round where you have a potentially guaranteed contract
for at least 2 years,
for at least 2 years, yeah. And I mean, didn't it already come out that Rich Paul said that Bronny wouldn't be open to signing a two-way contract?
Yeah, that's exactly what Rich Paul said.
You're already saying, like, you have to have him on the roster. It's such a power play hit. It's like,
that's how Rich Paul works, though, man. He is he's got control of the NBA for sure, decent control of it, which is why I thought it was weird that Shams did not have the scoop on this at all.
See, I think a lot of people that I wouldn't really necessarily call them casual. It's just like a lot of people don't know a lot of these prospects in the draft. And so, like, to them, that's like all anyone talks about. Like, why do they keep talking about Bronny? Because like like they're acting like he's a number one pick potentially.
Yeah.
By the way, that was for a while. That was the number one. Speaking of gambling, that was like the number one bet on person to go number one in this draft was Bronny because the odds were like 200 to 1 or something like
Oh
that.
my gosh.
And so like a lot of people for a while have been betting Bronny to go one. Obviously, I seriously doubt that the Hawks are going to do that. I mean, please do it, Hawks. Do something stupid. But
That'd be crazy.
as someone who like kind of tries to scout players and follow the draft, like I don't really tune to like First Take to get my knowledge on Alex Sarr and Zachary Ricochet and stuff like that. So I think it's kind of funny that this whole draft has turned into like a Bronny love fest.
Yeah.
When he's not even like a top 60 prospect. But yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, it makes things gives us another storyline to talk about, right?
It definitely does. And the Lakers, they want to build a long-term program, as Woj has said. So we'll see if Dan Hurley ends up accepting the job. Apparently, they're supposed to meet over the weekend. So we'll see if it ends up happening. I'm excited to.
Well, they've blown through coaches lately.
Yeah. So I think Dan Hurley would be a really good hiring, but as you mentioned, as you guys were talking about, some college coaches don't pan out, and you guys brought up John Beeline. I was like, damn, I forgot about that whole thing where he barely lasted on that team. That was a disaster. He was like, I remember he like called some player some weird word, and then that was pretty much the end of it from there. So like, yeah, John Beeline, man, that was not necessarily a throwback, but that was like, damn, I forgot about that situation because he did not last long at all. But yeah, so. We will see what happens, man. We are getting closer and closer to draft night. That's all I had for this episode, unless if you had anything else to add.
I do feel kind of bad for JJ.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like he was ready for that step up, and I mean, I'm sure he's fine. Just keep doing his thing. But yeah,
sounds like he'll get one eventually, based off the Hornets were interested in him at one point too. So
maybe it'll end up being better for him because I don't know.
I think the Lakers would have
go into a Lakers with the 40-year-old LeBron who's going to try to control everything.
He even said years ago himself that the job sucked. Like that's not a job that anybody should want. So like it's kind of weird how interested. I get why he's interested, but it's just kind of funny how the tables have turned. But it is a head coaching job nonetheless, which obviously is only 30 spots. So, but yeah, I'm sure he'll get one eventually. Sounds like he's interested in coaching. So. That, like I said, that's all I had to say for this one. Fun episode. We'll see. Man, I'm excited. We're getting closer and closer to draft, like I said. Maybe we get some trades here soon. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
But
I don't know if we want to hear the word trade.
No, we don't. Blazers trade up to 3.
You know what that reminded me of? Remember Shams freaking lied about the Blazers giving Gary Payton the second Toradol or whatever.
Yeah.
He never apologized for that either. He kind of threw Cronin and the whole front office under the bus, the whole medical staff. Turns out there was nothing to any of that, and never backtracked or issued an apology for that or anything. So there's another thing. He obviously got some sort of influence to leak that out there for to do damage to something that he shouldn't have had any business doing damage to.
You guys are sus. Woj and Shams talking to you guys. You guys are sus. Like, you guys do some weird stuff. But all right, I think that's going to do it for us here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching as always. Peace out. Go Blazers.